Things continue to get wild when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. We've got rumors flying all over the place. Another massive one here. Shout outs to Nate the Hate. He actually discussed something, and we got to talk about this situation with Halo, Flight Simulator, and more gearing up for the Nintendo Switch 2. We also have to discuss Nintendo responding to the information that's coming out of CES 2025, because apparently there are a lot of people who think that the Genki manufacturer, accessory manufacturer, they actually brought a real Nintendo Switch 2 to CES. There is a lot of people that have been thinking that, and Nintendo had to come out and respond to some of that. So we're going to get into their response and, of course, my thoughts on everything, going over what we should be expecting, what's real, what's not real, because there is confusion there. We also have some other stuff that we absolutely have to discuss when it comes to Square Enix and the Nintendo Switch 2 based off of the recent listings that were found in French databases for big AAA third-party games. So there is a lot to get into. But before we get into that, what's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop, as we're going to be covering a lot of Nintendo Switch 2 RPG information, and of course my live streams where you can come talk with the community, talk with myself in a very interactive environment. Now let's go ahead and jump right into this, because we're going to start off with what's happening with Microsoft and the Nintendo Switch 2. So according to the most recent Nate the Hate podcast, he actually recently had Randall L. Thor, big Microsoft channel, on his podcast to talk about the predictions for Xbox in 2025. Now, we do know that Xbox is having a big developer direct on January 23rd. There's going to be a number of games, third-party and first-party, shown off, and one mystery game as well. But Microsoft has more plans than just that, because according to Nate the Hate, he has now heard and felt, I would say, confident enough to share with us that Microsoft will be bringing Halo, the Master Chief Collection, and Flight Simulator 2024 to the Nintendo Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5 in 2025 this year. So that's absolutely nuts. Apparently, you're going to be able to play Master Chief Collection, which includes Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3 with ODST, all the DLC and everything, and Halo 4, I think also Halo 4 Reach. All of that is going to be included on this. So I'll definitely look up exactly what you're getting with it and show it to you guys. But this is nuts. This is a huge mascot game, almost like Sony with God of War and Kratos, or Nintendo with Mario. Halo is what made Xbox what it is. If it wasn't for Halo, I'm not sure if we'd have an Xbox at this point. It's always been the quintessential exclusive to help push the system overall. So if you grew up like I did back when the original Xbox came out, I was already old at that point, but I remember this was the reason to buy an Xbox. That's the reason why I bought an Xbox, to play with the homies back in the day. We would play Halo 1. We would have these huge LAN parties where we'd get a bunch of CRT TVs, hook up our Xboxes, and play Halo 1, Blood Gulch, Capture the Flag. It was a ton of fun, and we used to do that all the time. It was like every weekend we would do that. So to see now at this point, Microsoft has evolved to pretty much being more of a third-party developer in addition to third-party console manufacturer. Yes, they make a console. Yes, they make first-party games, but those first-party games are also going to be on other platforms, and they're moving over to this apparently because they can make a ton of money doing this, and obviously their system sales aren't going where they wanted them to go now for a number of years, over a decade at this point. They haven't been able to really crack 60 million sold in any console that they've released, from the Xbox One to the Xbox series of systems. And even if you look at the original Xbox back then, that didn't even crack more than 25 million or so. They really only had one major big console selling success, and that was the Xbox 360. But outside of that, all their other attempts have been underneath 60 million units. So I think I can see why they are going in this direction, especially with all the spending that they did do, buying up all these different third-party publishers. When you do all that, you have to actually have a base to sell it to. PC and Xbox isn't enough, so including Nintendo and including PlayStation will get you great profit, and obviously will look better to the investors that are looking for simply profit. They don't care about your exclusivity overall. And if you can't sell your system in order to sell enough copies of the games, Microsoft has to feel that this is the next best option for them to continue running their business and running a very successful business, be it that. So we'll see how that works out and everything. But it wasn't only just those games. Hate the Hate also went on to talk about how Microsoft will be updating previously released games on the Nintendo Switch. So games like Pentiment and games like Ori and the Blind Forest, Will o' the Wisp, games like that. Also Grounded. Those are going to be updated for higher resolution and frame rate on the Nintendo Switch 2, and other games will be ported over as well. So maybe even stuff like Hi-Fi Rush could be coming over to Nintendo Switch 2. So it doesn't just stop with Halo and Flight Simulator, there's going to be more. So it's pretty much almost going to be everything, it seems, based off of what I was listening to. And that makes sense based off of what Microsoft has said so far. It started out first with just these 4 games, and we'll see where it goes from there. But now it's evolved into pretty much anything is on the table, which Microsoft has pretty much stated themselves. Nate the Hate also says that Sea of Thieves is another game that could get a Nintendo Switch 2 port. That was a very successful game on the PlayStation 5. That port did really well, was one of the top revenue generators when it launched, so I'd expect them to release Sea of Thieves on the Nintendo Switch 2, so that can also make probably a lot of money as well. So this is pretty much the area, and this is the direction that Microsoft is going. It's a little bit weird because I grew up in the era where Microsoft was trying to be competitive in that console market and sell as many consoles as possible and have that community and kind of have that exclusive nature that Sony and Nintendo do. But at the same time, like, they really have to make money, and they haven't been able to sell their system at an efficient clip for the last decade plus. So this, I would say, way for them was pretty much inevitable when you're buying up stuff like Activision Blizzard, when you're buying up Bethesda, when you're buying up all these big entities. You've got to have a place to sell them, and restricting it only to one system that's not even selling that great probably isn't a good business strategy. It's a way to get people fired overall. So I can understand what they're doing from here. But yeah, it looks like the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have some massive support, some big AAA games from big developers. Halo is a huge one. People have been wanting to play Halo on a portable system, a direct, real portable system for quite some time now. Not the PC handhelds and other type of things, but an actual portable system. People were looking forward to Microsoft making their own portable system so they can do that in a type of way, but it looks like you're going to be able to do that with the Nintendo Switch 2 in 2025, and I can see Halo the Master Chief Collection being a top seller on the platform, just because we almost got Halo on the Nintendo DS back in the day, but it ended up being canceled. And they did release stuff like Blue Dragon and Viva Pinata. There was some stuff on the Nintendo DS overall that Microsoft didn't mind being on there. So this is kind of like the evolution of that on steroids at this point. So what do you guys think overall? I think it's kind of crazy, but at the same time, we saw this coming, so it's not surprising. But yeah, Halo on a Nintendo platform, crazy. Nintendo Switch 2 seems to be more than capable to be able to get those games done. Now, I want to move over to the next thing here when it comes to Nintendo talking about what's been happening with the leaks and the models that you're seeing around and everything. So I found this to be funny because there are people who actually think that the dummy system at CES that Genki, the accessory manufacturer, was showing off was a real system. I actually had somebody come into my stream and drop a donation and said, hey man, like, is this real? What's going on? If this was an actual real system, what's happening? So he felt that it was, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold up, guys. This is not an actual real system from Genki or from these other places that are showing off the system. They're 3D prints, they're models based off the leaked specifications. They're not officially the real system, so there is some confusion there, and I think that's the reason why Nintendo finally decided to say something about these leaks and rumors. So the Japanese outlet Sankai, who reached out to Nintendo for a comment on this, and a company representative from Nintendo replied back and had this to say, saying, quote, "The images and videos are not official." So there you go, guys. They're not official systems. They're not official stuff from Nintendo, and obviously they're gonna say something like this. I just wanted to make sure to let you guys know, because there are people that I've seen that think that these are actually the Nintendo Switch 2 console. They're just based off the leaked specifications. They're just going off of what they've heard from whatever sources they have, and it seems to be that those specifications are going to be somewhat accurate or accurate, so they can adjust or they can make their accessories to fit accordingly. But yeah, Just like I said, when it comes to publicity, this is what they wanted. Genki and all these other accessory manufacturers, they want to sell their accessories. They want to sell their Joy-Cons. They want to sell their cases. They want to sell all these different things. And of course, at CES, one of the biggest consumer electronic shows, they're going to bring it. They want to talk about it. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a hot topic. It's a highly anticipated system, and people are going to want accessories for it. Accessory manufacturers made millions off of the Nintendo Switch. Some of the best-selling accessories were for the Nintendo Switch. So of course they want to get the leg up. They want to get the jump. They want to talk about it. They want to get you excited to buy their stuff. And once again, free marketing. I've mentioned Genki. Many other people have mentioned Genki overall. They've mentioned these other accessory manufacturers. They absolutely want you talking about their brand right now. And at this point, to put it in your head, hey, look, when you need that accessory, when the Nintendo Switch 2 launches, it's going to be right here with us. So it makes sense that they're doing this. It makes sense that they're talking about it. It makes sense that they're going to say anything because, one, they don't have an NDA. And they actually recently said that, hey, look, they don't have a Nintendo Switch 2 system. Even though there was someone that said that Genki said that they had a real Nintendo Switch 2, they came out and said, we don't have a real one based off of leaked specifications. So just keep all of this in mind, guys. It's not actual real systems at this point. Nintendo will have something very soon, in my opinion, and they will show off the system. So we just got to cool it on it and realize that these dummy systems, these renders or models are not the actual system. They're based off the leaked specifications of what the system is going to be. All right, now let's move into the Square Enix talk, because the other day I discussed a number of SKUs that have popped up in retailer sites in France, I think, some French retailer sites for Nintendo Switch 2 games. And in that, they were able to break down from what publishers those games are going to be. Now, the publishers that we have here, it's going to be 3 SKUs from Bethesda, 4 SKUs from Electronic Arts, 2 SKUs from Bandai Namco, 5 SKUs from Square Enix, 2 SKUs from Take-Two Interactive, and 2 SKUs from Warner Bros. Games. So SKUs as in stock keeping unit, as in actual games that they're going to have in there. That's what that means. And I wanted to hone in and focus a bit on Square Enix because I talked about the other day, Tekken 8, FIFA, and Red Dead Redemption 2 were the 3 games that I discussed the other day, emphasizing Red Dead Redemption 2 and Tekken 8. FIFA always comes, so it is what it is, but how the impact of having games like Tekken 8 and Red Dead Redemption 2 would be for the Nintendo Switch 2. But people were talking about, well, wait a minute, hold up, OJ. There's 5 SKUs for Square Enix titles. Don't you want to talk about that a bit more? And yes, I do want to talk about that a bit more because now we have some supporting information about actually what these games are going to be. I'm going to break down all the stuff that I think as well, but Nate the Hate has also came out and stated that Final Fantasy VII Remake will be coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2025, while Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. Both of these games are also coming to Xbox as well, so it fits in with what Square Enix has been talking about when it goes to getting Final Fantasy to more gamers' hands and becoming a AAA multi-platform. More of the games, making sure that they spread out to where they need to go to in order to get those sales. Because Square Enix was a huge supporter of the Nintendo Switch, and I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be massive for them. I think a lot of their business plan and strategy is centered around the Nintendo Switch 2 after what they had to say with their new business strategy after the failure somewhat of Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth not selling the amount of copies that they want to actually sell. Not that they're failures, that they did horrible or they're the worst selling games ever of all time, but they just simply aren't selling enough. The audience and base isn't only on PlayStation for what they are producing. Now, this is aided by what's actually happening. If you look at the Japanese sales, Square Enix sees it. They see what games like Octopath Traveler sold on the Nintendo Switch. They see what their other titles did, and they see the market in Japan completely shifting over to what Nintendo is doing. Often you will see 25 to 30 games for the top 30 games in Japan each week being on the Nintendo Switch platform. You'll see still at this point the Nintendo Switch outselling every other system handily in Japan, and those are big sales. The Switch is the best-selling system of all time in Japan with well over 30+ million units sold, so you cannot be behind the 8 ball like you were with the Nintendo Switch 1, not thinking it's going to be a success and not setting up your engines and what you're doing overall on a large scale for that system, and ended up losing out on millions of dollars. So they don't want that to happen with the Nintendo Switch 2. So I am expecting Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy Fantasy VII Rebirth, and other big titles that didn't make their way to the Nintendo Switch 1 to come to Nintendo Switch 2. Final Fantasy probably being a centerpiece of that. There was a number of the old mainline Final Fantasy games and spin-off titles, but I could see Square Enix bringing major Final Fantasy in addition to some of the older games and remasters, remakes, and ports that have been rumored for quite some time. Final Fantasy IX Remake, that's something that would be huge to bring to Nintendo Switch 2, especially for the Japanese audience over there, but also worldwide as well. Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered, that's something that's been rumored for a long time with the Nvidia leak, along with Final Fantasy IX Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16. These are all games that are potential for the Nintendo Switch 2, as well as Square Enix has to now shift over to see exactly where the fans are going to be. And you're looking at other RPGs. Visions of Mana is another Square Enix game that I think has the potential to show up on the Nintendo Switch 2 day one. We know that Oka Studios over there at NetEase has essentially been shuttered at this point, but a lot of the people have went back to Square Enix and found other places. Square Enix owns the IP to that, so they could absolutely have them working on a port of Visions of Mana and have that ready for around the first year of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch. So there is a lot of stuff that Square Enix is bringing, but I do think the emphasis is going to be major Final Fantasy. Obviously, maybe something like Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 bundle. You can put that in there. There could be new HD 2D games. There could also be updates for their current games on the Nintendo Switch, like Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, getting that updated with better visuals and frame rate performance, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, other titles that they've released like Dragon Quest Treasures, for example. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that Square Enix probably has planned for the Nintendo Switch 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. But yeah, 5 games from Square Enix when it comes to what's going on here, and I think that there's going to be a lot more than that in the coming years overall, based on what we've saw from the Nintendo Switch 1 and how the trends are going at this point. But what do you guys think overall with all the different topics that we discussed here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.